Hightower!
What a shocking development when I woke up out of a very good sleep this morning to the news that Richard Hightower has been hired as the Bears special teams coach, John. What a coup for the Bears. They pulled it off. You got to give them credit. Wow.
Yeah, man. Is this one of the smoothest moves in the history of coaching? Jenga. What would be the movement?
Just Jenga's a good one. Yeah.
It's just
what's the one where the Tetris?
The moment that the punt block happened, which is it doesn't. We've tried to figure out a name. It's just one of the more iconic
punt
plays.
Block touchdown.
Punt block touchdown when your offense couldn't score on the road, Green Bay, -5 degrees to beat Aaron Rodgers and the number 1 seeded Packers. It really, the more I've thought about that game, it's helped make losing the NFC Championship game, a game that was very winnable, easy to stomach. Now, listen, Hightower in a vacuum was god-awful this year. Their special teams was terrible. They were clearly one of the worst units. And does he get credit for the Green Bay game? Of course. But as it turns out, they were playing the worst unit, right? He didn't just fucking outduel Tiger Woods in his prime. He beat a guy that was swinging with one arm, and he beat him. And Hightower deserves credit for that moment. And he also blocked a field goal at the end of the half. It was a great game for him. But I had come to grips with, as fun as the Hightower screaming has it's become a thing, that he was probably going to be back, especially when I guess I had heard today or read today that part of their friendship from the University of Texas is Richard was a walk-on too. So there was a special bond, these two guys. Anytime you know people, like you and I knew people, we knew each other in your teenage years, there is a bond that it's much harder to get when you meet someone when you're 35 or 45 or 52. That doesn't mean you can't create very strong bonds the older you get. But part of the reason Mike McDaniel and Kyle probably are so close is they've known each other for so long at a young age. And it's just as you get older in certain professions, egos and money and all this other shit comes involved. I understand why Kyle probably likes this guy. He's friends with him. We're all friends with people. And it's why it can be complicated sometimes in certain industries to do business with your friends. Because he was kind of at the point where it's is he going to fire him? Because you would say any other place, right? When a coach just hires another coach, and I don't know you beside a coach-coach relationship, he's a fireable coach. He had been here 4 years. It was trending the wrong way, and they were the mark all season long. And for as awesome as the 2 playoff wins and even the NFC Championship was, he almost single-handedly was the reason that they didn't even make it to the dance. Right? It could have easily been Sean Payton maybe would have had to retire a week or two later because he would have been coaching in the playoffs. Right?
Yep.
So for them, and the agents run the deal now to get this guy a job. And listen, we don't have the information here, but is it fair to say that Kyle Shanahan was a huge reason this guy got a job? In the Niners?
I mean, it feels like Lane Kiffin getting the FAU job because Nick Saban didn't want him on the staff anymore. Right?
Yeah. Feels very Saban-like. Doug Marrone has not been officially hired anywhere, is no longer with Alabama. But they're not going to report Doug Marrone has been fired as the offensive line coach. They don't do that, right?
It's
hell. The Niners didn't even announce John Embry had been fired yet. I haven't seen anywhere. Have you? I mean, it's out there, but
do teams generally announce that sort of thing? I don't think they do.
I think teams usually put out, we have relieved so-and-so.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been there 4 years.
Feels a little weird to me to do that kind of stuff, but maybe they do. I think this is half of the move. The other half of the move is who do you get, right? The other half of the move is what do you do next? But we can talk about that in a moment. I think for the Niners, it felt like he was going to be back because there's no way I'm going to put this guy, quote unquote, on the street if you're Kyle Shanahan. And look at it from the other side. There's no world in which the Bears are going, we need a special teams coach. Who do we hire? Let's get Hightower. Now, maybe
he had coached there before.
So, there is the world, right, where Eberflus is like, I don't know anybody. And the Bears go, we got a guy. He's much better than his numbers. He knows he can handle Chicago. from like a specialty. Like it does take a guy maybe who's been in some bad weather to coach special teams in Chicago. I don't know. And we're telling you, the Niners will let us have him. The Niners aren't going to block him, and he'll be good. He'll be fine. He'll be good. He'll be better than his numbers were last year. We can fix that. But yeah, maybe that's the world. But it does feel like Shanahan, because at the end of the day, Kyle could have prevented this if he wanted to prevent it, right? Richard Hightower didn't just become the defensive coordinator of the Bears. He went from special teams coach to special teams coach. So, Kyle can say whatever he wants. Like, we know he could have stopped it if he wanted to stop it.
They fired him, and they didn't have to announce they fired him or / wear it. Like, ultimately, John Embry, who kind of went viral, I think the Flores thing was hot and polarizing, honestly bothered me a little bit. It's like they asked him to take a 60% pay cut. Yeah, he was a tight end coach making $1.5 fucking million. $1.5 million. That's insane. That's nuts. But then what did they do?
Well, and assistant head coach, right?
But then they used that money. But I'd be like, what the hell is John Embry doing? It's just a title because they were buddies. Like, I don't think, I didn't feel the vibe there. Like, what the hell is John Embry doing? Well, then they used it and got Anthony Lynn. Like, if you put them both on the free agent market, people would rather have Anthony Lynn on their coaching staff than John Embry. So they upgraded the assistant head coach with. And listen, I'm not trying to talk shit about tight end coaches. Known a few. It's the easiest position to find a coach. It just is. It's a lot of, like right fielder in Little League. It's where I played. You just throw your shittiest player out there. It's usually where you put your shittiest coach.
Yeah, your shittiest coach, or when you have, I've seen it a lot, I think, in college, where it's like, I've got a D-line coach on my staff, and then my buddy, who's also a D-line coach, just became available, and I got nowhere to put him, so I'm going to make him my tight ends coach to get him on my staff. That happens a lot, too.
It's a stash spot. So
Stash spot. I think there's a rap song called Stash Spot one time.
Probably.
By One Shadow, a small group out of Chicago no one remembers.
Good
Bought
song.
their record on the I don't remember the song. Might not be One Shadow. Bought their tape outside of Wrigley one time. No, Cincinnati. I think they were in Cincinnati. Anyway.
So we might have to send that tape to.
I still got the record somewhere. One Shadow. It's a good album.
But
circa like 2003.
Part of this though is the hard part, and you watch the Montana documentary, you listen to the Belichick book. I would say that those guys were known. When you say most ruthless head coaches ever who were also successful, it would be Walsh and Belichick, right? They feel like they're in their own category of being like kind of cutthroat. And, Kyle hadn't really had to do that yet. Like he was kind of at a moment where kind of had some cutthroat moves. Now, because he was friends, like maybe he didn't give a shit about John Embry, he was not going to throw just fucking Hightower just out to fend for himself.
Well, he might have had to. Well, he might not have had. Right, he might have had to like what he didn't want to do was demote him and give him a pay cut to make him. If the alternative was no one else is hiring Hightower, was he not going to keep him on the staff in some capacity?
Belichick's demoted guys over the years, right? Saban has.
Yeah, I've seen college. You've seen it all the time. A guy gets promoted from. Kyle Whittingham cycled through 15 offensive coordinators. Some of them are still on his staff. They just got promoted and demoted again.
Yeah.
Well, he's a really good O-line coach. Why would I fire him from being an OC if no one else is going to hire him as an OC? I'll just make him my own line coach again.
Kind of genius.
Like, it doesn't always have to end badly, right? So
sometimes it's time for a change.
Maybe that was the alternative. Well, when you're 27th in special teams, no one's talked about special teams DVOA until this year. But
to me, it wasn't. That number didn't do it justice because I bet some of the other teams that were in the mix beside the Packers were just shitty teams, and you just watch shitty teams play. They do everything shitty. It's like the Niners were playing in these important games, and because of Jimmy Garoppolo is so tight, his units were constantly fucking them.
And
it was clearly they had isolated him and were attacking him relentlessly. And there was a moment, part of the reasons the Cowboys came back is because they ran one of the easiest fakes we've ever seen. He's like, well, we called it punt fake. Well, you called it punt fake. Josh Norman ran back like he was taking off to Laredo, Texas. It made no sense. He's like, it's on me. No, well, yeah. What are you guys coaching? Part of Belichick's whole thing is like you're coaching it or allowing it to happen. And that simply means like you are going over this stuff in practice. Like you went over punt safe in practice. Everyone has their role. And I think the thing that was so jarring with Hightower either the Niners players are morons. I think it's pretty clear the Niners have a lot of smart guys, or you are not communicating what they should do. And it's just basic stuff. And hopefully we'll never have talked about special teams this negatively ever again because it kind of bores me, but just catching the ball on the 5-yard line, having no one over in certain places, the effort being kind of shitty. It was all around. And then all the trick plays just getting hit left and right were outrageous. Honestly, if it wasn't for the Green Bay game, that might have been the worst special teams year for a competitive team I've ever seen.